he's a well-meaning, earnest man who is good,
Ernest Flus?
good enough at whatever job he can. I'm not saying he should not be drummed out of the league. It's not Jim Boylan. It's just the bar's got to be higher. This is, you talk about point A to point B, and there are certain coaches who are good at certain things, and I think he was kind of point A to point A, and maybe they're starting to look at the possibility of reaching point B. I want to win because of coach. I want a coach where you wake up every day because he is going to outthink the guy across the field from him.
Okay, name those guys.
They're hard to find. I think John Harbaugh is one of those guys. I don't know.
Harbaugh, Tomlin, clearly Tomlin, because he ain't got jack squat
right
at the quarterback position. Until maybe last year, we were talking about that being Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
Shanahan, LaFleur, maybe.
Maybe
Are
now.
we still? Are we saying that because of Sean? Are we saying Sean Payton is that guy too?
Pete Carroll has people who will say that about him. If you think that still holds true, wherever you want to find that guy, whoever it may be, I want the Bears to have that guy. That and I know that he's players like Eberflus because he's likable, and this is the time of year when a team wins a couple games, and everyone's like, yeah, you should keep him. But I hope Kevin Warren has the bar set a lot higher than that.
Is there anything that can be done in the next 4 games that would impress you with Eberflus?
No.
So even if he won them all and they made the playoffs, you would say no.
I'd like to upgrade. I don't.
If they went on a 6-game winning streak.
I'd like a better head coach. I certainly want a better offensive coordinator. And I also think the other thing that's going on here is this defense is good, and there are I think there are a lot of guys who could. I wouldn't worry about losing his ability as a coordinator because I think there's a lot of guys who could effectively coordinate this defense. I also think that they've done a nice job drafting a lot of hard work, as we've said about all these guys, hardworking, self-motivated, good people. I don't think they need a father figure.
But if your Eberflus isn't part of your argument, hey, you didn't even really give me what I needed to make the defense work until you traded for Montez Sweat. And now look, I have one ass-kicking pass rusher. And look at the difference in what the defense looks like. Now imagine if I had an ass-kicking 3 technique to go along with it, and maybe they do in Javon Dexter.
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't get any credit for that?
No, it's not a matter of coming to me and making a case and giving him credit. I want a better coach. It's not about him. It's not a court of law where it's going to be like, here's why I deserve to stay.
Well, I think that he'll probably make some arguments onto why, if they are thinking about moving on from him, he'll probably make some arguments on why he should stay.
I think that they'll make up their mind and they'll go tell him if he's here or not. I don't think he's going to be allowed to plead for his job.
But I'm saying in the scenario of him winning 6 games in a row, which is unlikely, granted. But if we go back to the beginning of the season, people who were being realistic, we're talking about 7 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very much in the crosshairs of that being possible. I think this weekend's game is really rough. Even with Flacco playing quarterback, it's rough because of how good Cleveland is all the way around. But the rest of those games are winnable if this is the type of defense that you're going to get. I agree with you. The standards should be higher. But we have no idea. Kevin Warren is a cipher to us, Dan.
I know.
We don't know what he is. We don't know what he's about. And he might be swayed the same way that George and Ted were swayed.
Possible.
When things start to look better and you get the reports and you're talking to Ryan Poles about, well, this is happening because of this, and this, and this was all part of the plan. You might believe all of that. It could also be that there's a team president that wants everything to line up. And doesn't think that they're getting the best possible coach.
That's why I don't think it's 100% certain that Ryan Poles stays. That's not 100%. That's just people guessing too. Kevin Warren could blow it all out.
He could, or he could run it back.
Yeah, if this were pre-Warren and you were telling me that it was still George and Ted, then I'd say absolutely they will look for, and they have. We know they look for every opportunity to retain their guy. Status quo is comfortable for everyone and inexpensive, and they wouldn't have to bring in. They have the embarrassing spectacle of the outside football consultant being brought in to tell him which agent is telling him which coaches to hire, which is always an incredible embarrassment for a heritage franchise to have to outsource a coach or GM search. It was just silly. And if you think you've gotten past that, I don't know what any of this means and what any victory means and what anything in the micro means. And maybe the decision's already made. Maybe Kevin Warren's already down the road with interviews of future GMs or head coaches. And some of this that we should be tracking where his plane has been going. Because that's
Toronto.
Right, because he's already been doing this stuff.
Do you guys want to hear, because we talked about this on Take the North last week, and this could maybe, this is mild production on the air. Do you guys want to hear Kevin Warren talking in June about Ryan Poles? Because I think
he talks about him being the sun and the earth and the moon and the stars and the mountains.
I think
him the world.
I think this is important context to have in this conversation. To keep in mind where he was on Ryan Poles in June.
This is the first time I've been in a relationship like this, and I just want to be his sunshine, his water, just for his continued growth. He's outstanding, and every person in their career who has achieved any level of success has had that person at a critical time in their career that was there, that was honest, that was demanding, but that was supportive, and truly, that you could truly, when I can honestly say, even though we've worked together for a little bit of time, we've worked together for a relatively short period, but it really started in January because we were doing all the transition meetings. But it's one of those ones, kind of how, like with my wife Greta, I was able to call my mom after the first date and said, I found my wife. I was able to go home with Greta and tell her after my first meeting with Ryan, I found my work partner. And I've had that really 2 times in my life, in May, and I had it in Coach Vermeil. And when you have that special relationship, that you can, we're businessmen, we're both type A people, we know about accountability and we're going to be judged by the performance on it, but to have someone that you work with. So when people ask me, just like Greta said, she hasn't seen me this happy and joyful. I'm grateful to have that environment. Ryan and I can talk about anything, deal with any issues. We will not agree on everything, but to have that relationship, this is a really special environment.
Yeah, that's pretty glowing.
It is, but it's also before 4-game losing streak that was a 14-game losing streak. It was before you had to let go of some people on your roster, and before things looked like you lost you completely lost the trade that you had for the wide receiver that you had to have. You had to get him out of the building. All that stuff happened this year, like in the last 3 months. So that goes into the gumbo of whatever Kevin Warren is probably thinking about when it comes to how to go ahead with the Bears' future. But I just know that the folks around NFL, they believe that winning is contagious. And if there is more winning than losing over the last 4 weeks of the season, I would not be surprised that they had some sort of run it back type moment.
Every season's precious, and
I agree.
I would hate to wait around and convince yourself that lack of bad is good enough.
But
And this would be it.
to use what you said at the beginning of the show and what you just said, what if over the next 4 weeks it isn't a lack of bad, that it is actual good that's happening?
We'll know when we see it, and I think it's possible. I also think quality of opponent matters, and the reason why this game mattered to me is I know that defense just took it to a really good offense. They pantsed them. That's a big deal. That's not the Cardinals. That's not the Falcons. That's not Joshua Dobbs. That's a real ass offense, and you made them look like they didn't want to be there. So I do think quality of opponent really does matter. But that was a significant data point. That yesterday was a real ass win.
Let me paint a scenario for you, Dan Bernstein. Bears win their next 3 games. Their Sunday night game in Week 18 gets flexed because it's the Bears and the Packers fighting for a playoff spot. And the Bears win that game. You think that there aren't going to be people up at Haugh that are like, nope, we found our guy. Now that we've given him all that he needs, he's off and running. Come on, you've been here too long.
As a hypothetical, yeah, but we have to see it happen because everything's always weird in the NFL. It's the one thing you can count on. Everything's always weird. I want the rest of this season to be entertaining, interesting, and informative. And it clearly is like I said to start the show, the fact that the Bears have our attention, that they're not playing out the string, that they are going for wins instead of kind of going for losses, but not telling you they're going for losses. They've come a long way in that regard. You wish you could erase the fact that they stumbled into this season. They were unprepared to start the season. That weighs heavily for me. They gave away times. They were ramping up and all this stuff, and they just were not ready. They weren't ready in the first game, and they looked lost for the first quarter of the season.
Mm-hmm.
That happened.
100%.
They gave away games. They choked away games.
They gave away games in the middle part of the season, too.
That stuff all matters to me, too. I want it all to be better, and we'll see. Like, let's watch these games. Let's see how they play. Let's see if they can build on things. Let's see if they can learn. But just like you say, you watch the first scripted drive and see what they learn and see if some of that stuff gets better. I just don't want falling back on okay enough, the embrace of the mid, to keep them from looking at bigger and better. Because this is you're starting
and deafer.
You're starting to arm yourself now. You've got all these draft picks. You've got young developing players. You have a defense where the arrow is clearly pointed up. So you don't stop now, boys. Don't say, well, okay, we can just keep going with what we have. All the more reason to think, can I find a point B to point C arrangement here that takes all of this? Where's the next Mike McDaniel? You know, where's somebody say, okay,
Ben Johnson?
Maybe, I don't know. But I can't tell you right now that I'm going to make the case for some guy I don't know. But do I think Jim Harbaugh could come right in here and find somebody to coordinate the defense at a very high level, and also add an understanding in the building of what level of play is acceptable and what's not, and actually have people believe rather than right, play for each other. Right,
that's part of my problem with your argument. You don't like this guy.
Oh, I know. That's not true.
And
I just
it is true.
I think he
it
sounds.
It is true, Dan. You mock him all the time.
I mock because he sounds like an idiot. I'm sure he's a nice enough guy. He just sounds like a high school gym teacher.
And that's your, like, you don't want that style of coach.
I want someone who sounds smarter, because I think it tells you what sort of level processor we've got here.
Point, if no matter how he sounds, what if he's reaching a point where he's becoming more effective? Forget about how he sounds.
As a coordinator or as a head coach?
As a head coach. All right, here's DJ Moore. Let's hear him talk about Matt Eberflus.
Relationship is good with the head coach. He makes the team stay together by just his speeches and just being upbeat and positive. And, you know, sometimes around when you start going on a losing streak, a lot of people in the building just start being like, they don't know which way to go. They don't know what to do. But we got a clear, concise plan on just being positive and going forward with how we've been playing. And then once we get that breakthrough, we can't just be happy with one win. We had to go stack another win. Now the next challenge is to stack a third one in a row this week.
I do think that it's important the way that the head coach presents himself to the public. But if they feel like the messaging is getting through and they're all getting better together, the other stuff doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you. And it bothers you a lot.
The whole acronym thing bothered me from the first
Yes!
press conference. I don't need the acronym guy. I don't need the high
We
school
play on the
coach.
hits principle.
Damn
Okay,
right.
that's fine. I mean, if I just think that the Bears have set the bar too low when it comes to this, and for too long.
Well, we'll find out because we don't know. We don't know Kevin Warren at all. We don't know. We're throwing darts at a dartboard here when it comes to this.
It's fascinating to think that if the Bears could simply make this season interesting, if they have succeeded at this point at rendering the rest of the season somehow meaningful or interesting, and maybe they haven't. That's what's so weird. Maybe these decisions are already made. That they know what they're going to do, and they're going to trade Fields, and they're going to get Caleb Williams, and they're happy Fields is playing well because maybe they'll be able to get more for him in a trade, and they've decided that his deficiencies are enough that there's a cap on what they're going to be able to do. It's possible that it doesn't mean anything, but and we're just projecting all of this, and that's fine too. But if they want to get weird, if they want to win out and go ahead and get weird, I'm here for it. Go ahead and make it weird.